Let's talk about the first official day of NBA free agency, catch you up with all of the transactions up until the point that I hit record. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and when I'm not in here recording, you can find me down at your local train station selling Gillette Mach 5 blades. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We're available on all platforms, so thumb, two of them, double bang, audio, video, subscribe, yeah, subscribe to the channel, get in the chat, yeah. All right, we're talking about NBA free agency. I'll tell you what time it is. It is midday here. It is 10 p.m. Eastern on June 30th in the United States. So I'm calling it here. And we'll have recap shows each day, and there'll be things that happen. Like just as I hit record, there's news that Jordan Clarkson intends to sign with the Knicks. We'll cover that tomorrow. We're going to look at players who re-signed. We're going to look at players who extended. We're going to look at players who were traded. We're going to look at players who changed teams. And there'll be analysis on these deals, but of course, a lot of this stuff, we need to wait for all of the dust to settle to see exactly what goes on, because you might see a trading that doesn't make sense, or you might see a deal that happens, it doesn't make sense, and then something else falls into place a day or so later. So we'll talk about them. We'll give preliminary ideas on the team impact and the fantasy impact of it, but of course, I hope we understand, that this stuff can change. It is Canada Day, so shout out to all of the good blokes up in Canada. Enjoy your day, I guess. That's what Canada Day is, I'm assuming. Well done to Canada. I don't know. You guys, what do you do? Eat beavers and drink maple syrup? Sounds like a regular day. Let's talk free agency. I'm going to start with doing re-signings, because there's not huge changes in this fantasy-wise. We're just going to bang through a lot of these ones. Kyrie Irving is back with the Dallas Mavericks, 3 years, $119 million player option. He won't play until probably All-Star break, I'm guessing, and even then he'll be he'll be handled relatively carefully, I guess, coming back off the ACL, not going to be a big impact guy. Fred VanVleet's player option of $45 million, or team option, was declined, and he re-signed 2 years, $50 million with a player option. So if he plays better, he can decline out of that, and then he can see what else is out there. But he gets the same amount of money guaranteed here, or a little bit more, $5 million extra, but the ability to also go and get more if he wants to. So he'll be back, he'll be starting. Reed Shepherd breakout on hold completely. Justin Edwards in Philadelphia, 3 years, $6.6 million. They would hope that he's not a big part of the rotation this upcoming season. Naz Reid, 5 years, $125 million with a player option. It's an insane contract. I'm so sorry, it's insane. I know people love Naz Reid. He's pretty good. He's not going to start. That's 5 years with a player option, $125 million for a reserve. And yeah, at some point, and maybe I am overreacting here, and maybe a weird move happens and Gobert is traded, but you have a Randall Reid front court then? That's disgusting. So yeah, it's weird, but I love that they're going all in. They're spending a ton of money, although they did lose someone, which we'll talk about later on. Reed's value in fantasy, I imagine, will be very similar to what it was last season, because the same cast of characters are still there. And then you got Davion Mitchell in Miami, 2 years, $24 million. I expect he will be actually useful and draftable as a late round guy. Whether he starts or not, he should play 30 plus. We'll see what happens with Yakuchonis about how ready he is, but it's a good contract. It's short term enough, and we'll see where Mitchell goes from there. Slaven Sammy Merrill is back in Cleveland, 4 years, $38 million. We know who he is. He's a streamer for threes. Same stuff. For some reason, Garrett Temple returns to Toronto. I know that he's a good bloke. This is the good bloke tax, I guess. 1 year, $3.6 million. Just a waste of a roster spot, though. So sorry. It just is. Pig Williams is back in Oklahoma City, 2 years, $29.3 million for big Jalen Williams, Vietnamese legend Jalen Williams. It's a team option on the end. We know that he'll put up numbers when someone is hurt and he gets to start, like he did last season when both Chet or Hartenstein rested games and he put up those triple-doubles. But overall, he's a nice depth piece, and if he found his way to a different team, we'd be more interested. Julius Randle is back with the Timberwolves, 3 years, $100 million player option. I'd expect a lot more of the same that we got last season from the Wolves. In fact, outside of losing some bench pieces, which we'll talk about later, they seem very similar. Jimmy Harden is back with the Clippers, 2 years, $81.5 million with a player option. I expect that Harden's numbers are similar enough. They might come down because half of his season was without Kawhi last season, and he'll be a first-round pick in fantasy leagues, I'm pretty sure. And I don't really have a reason to doubt that he'll do similar stuff. Fine, he's back. He earned it. We'll see where they go. We've got more on the Clippers later. The Bucks are going to be interesting, aren't they? 3 years and $44 million for Bobby Portis with a player option. Now, I don't know exactly how their team's going to look, but the way things currently stand, Bobby Portis is going to start for this team, which is frightening. It means they are going to be terrible. And Bobby Portis will put up big numbers, and he will be easily draftable in fantasy leagues. I hate having Bobby Portis when he's a bench piece because you'll get like 3 weeks of good production, and then he's the worst player on your roster for 10 weeks in a row, and you never know when the good numbers are going to come because you never know when someone's going to get hurt. Now, at this point, I expect that he starts and he'll score a lot and he'll be second or third on the team in usage, and they honestly could be terrible. Like they could be really bad. So we'll see. Oh God, holy shit! Their front court is going to be Kuzma, Giannis, and Portis with Kevin Porter at point guard. Never in my life have I seen a more disgusting looking lineup. Oh my God. Zaire Williams is back with Brooklyn, 2 years and $12 million. He wasn't that useful for fantasy. I don't know that he'll have much of a different role this season. That team's still got a lot of weird things to figure out. Colin Gillespie's back on a minimum contract, $1.24 million in Phoenix. He'll be in line to be the backup point guard, I guess. So that's important for deeper leagues. Joe Ingles gets the Garrett Temple treatment. I think Joe is cooked as an NBA player, unfortunately for him, but he's back and he gets the good bloke deal as well. Good for him to get in the money. Good for Garrett for getting the money as well. It just doesn't make a ton of sense from a non-intangible point of view. And then Day'Ron Sharpe, after they rejected his restricted rights, they re-signed him in Brooklyn, 2 years, $12 million. He still is the backup behind Nick Claxton, but also now we know Danny Wolf is down as the third string guy. If Sharpe was to find 25 a night, we'd definitely draft him. But the way things currently stand, at me recording this at 10 Eastern, Claxton's there, so Sharpe's the backup. I don't imagine there's any plans for that to be really any different. Go through the rest of these re-signings. Nicholas Batum is back in LA, 2 years, about $12 million. He will do what he does. He'll ramp it up in the playoffs. He'll be an okay 3-streamer when the schedule makes sense, and that's about it. The Wild thing, Jeff Green and Aaron Holiday are all back on minimum contracts for the Rockets as their team gets ridiculously stacked. These guys just aren't going to play. Maybe Holiday gets some minutes ahead of Reed Shepherd. I don't think that'll be the case. These are insurance pieces as your 13th, 14th, 15th man on the roster is how I guess it'll play out. Memphis did bring back Santi Aldama. 3 years and $52.5 million. I think that, well, given that Zach Edey is injured, I guess they could start Jay Huff at center, but they could just go with Jaren and Santi as the 4 and the 5 to begin the season. Aldama's always a tough one for me to figure out in fantasy. His shooting numbers go up and down. He doesn't do a huge amount of those defensive numbers, and then occasionally he'll have the big block game. I just don't think his upside's that high. The contract's okay. It's not disastrous. It's more money than Bobby Portis, but obviously he's a little bit younger. I think there was interest from other teams there. It's fine as a deal, and he just sort of sits around as a back-end guy, maybe, best case scenario. We also had Cam Spencer returning to Memphis, 2 years, $4.5 million. Nice depth player. That's it. Paul Reed is back to be the Pistons' third-string center, 2 years, $11 million. Very reliable third-string guy. And this is where we get to Kevin Porter Jr., who's got 2 years, $11 million. Now, Porter was on a minimum last season. He declined his player option. He's back. Him and Ryan Rollins are going to battle for that starting point guard job. If Kevin Porter is the starter and we get word of that, yeah, he'll be draftable because he'll put up points, he'll get assists, he'll get rebounds, and he'll provide some of the worst basketball you'll have ever seen. He'll have terrible shooting percentages, and you've got to be ready to deal with that. He won't be for everybody. In fact, for a lot of people, he'll just be a non-draftable guy, and I understand that. In points leagues, there'll be more value there. I actually think playing Ryan Rollins will work better for them because, again, having Kuzma, Portis, and Kevin Porter in your starting group is just, I don't know, man. Like, if anyone's got the phone number directly for The Hague, make a call. Like, what is that? It's embarrassing. Trey Jones is back to Chicago, 3 years, $24 million, and there is some talk of Ayo maybe being moved. So Jones will be that deeper league guy getting 20 minutes a night. It's him and Dosunmu off the bench with White and Giddey in that starting group. It's not going to impact unless guys are out. And then speaking of Milwaukee lineups, the artist formerly known as Taurean Prince is back. 2 years, $7.1 million for Darvin Ham's friend. Okay, fine. It's like a 2-year minimum contract, I guess. He'll have games where he starts, and he will never have any interest for us from a fantasy basketball perspective. They're all the re-signings. We'll come back for some guys who changed teams in a sec. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever wish that managing your money was easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can be. You could be growing your savings. You might be planning a big purchase. You might be building that wealth. Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. But it's more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You track all of your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Everything in that one app makes it so easy to track your spending. You categorize it by certain, delivery services or subscriptions or clothing or whatever it is, online shopping, groceries. Check what you're spending, where you can cut back, how you can get that budget cracking. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com. The code is LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Okay, let's take a look at some extensions. At this point, there's only 2 actual extensions that I've seen that have happened. Jabari Smith Jr., 5 years, $122 million. I don't think we'll have any ability to draft Jabari in fantasy leagues. The contract is totally reasonable. He is a useful player who helps them win. Their roster and rotation is going to be incredibly frustrating, and I still think more is going to happen with them. But they are loaded. Like, loaded. Now, as of me recording this, their center depth is Şengün, Steven Adams, Clint Capela. So 0 minutes for Jabari as a small ball center. But they've also got Kevin Durant, who plays the 4, and Tari Eason, who will play the 4. So Jabari's minutes upside is really capped. They also brought in, guess what? Another guy who's a 4/3 in Dorian Finney-Smith. The minutes just aren't there. So that's a great contract. It's good to have that control over him. But he's not going to get any big opportunity to explode from here. Like, he just isn't. There's just no minutes available. And they'll be able to be cautious at times with guys playing time and their games played. But we also know Ime Udoka is just going to grind the shit out of guys. Like, he will try and play guys big minutes if he can. So that roster is loaded. It is stacked, but it's going to create fantasy problems in trying to figure out who plays when. Jaren Jackson also got a huge deal, 5 years, $240 million extension. We know who Jaren is. Jaren probably gets more usage this season, and maybe his production rises. Doesn't mean that his defense will. In fact, it probably drops off. Let's take a look at some trades that have happened. We've talked about this one quite a bit. Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro. Okoro means nothing, and Lonzo Ball is a solid option, especially early on in the season. If Garland is out, now we don't trust Lonzo's health, but at the moment he's healthy. And he could actually be someone that you draft in the last round of a draft. You use him while Garland is out, and then you move on. Because if he plays 26 minutes, it's actually enough for Lonzo to be a category league guy, not points leagues, for category leagues. But again, it's a terrible trade from Chicago. I don't really know what they're doing half the time, or all of the time. This is another pretty insignificant trade, but Dylan Jones, who the Thunder traded 5 second-round picks to get last season, then gave up a second-round pick to dump him to Washington. I don't think he's an NBA caliber player necessarily. He puts up numbers in multiple categories, but he's too slow and he can't shoot. There might be minutes in Washington, but low-key, there isn't. You'll get some rotation minutes, but that's it. Colby Jones went to OKC, who actually played all right in Washington, but he was waived immediately. We'll see if he catches on anywhere. Colin Sexton went to Charlotte, along with a second-round pick. So, for some reason, the Jazz had to send out a pick to dump Colin Sexton's expiring contract, or Yusuf Nurkic goes to Utah. I don't know whether Nurkic plays any games in Utah. I don't know whether it means that Walker Kessler is on the move, but their front court is Larry Markkinen, John Collins, Walker Kessler, Kyle Filipowski, Taylor Hendricks, and Yusuf Nurkic. There's too many guys there. Somebody is not going to play. A lot of people aren't going to play. There's a lot that can happen there in Utah. So while this is a bad situation for Nurkic in terms of fantasy value, it sort of opened up stuff in Charlotte, but as you'll see later, we had a complicating factor involved in that as well. As for Sexton, he could start. He is better as a bench guard. I doubt that we would draft him, but also we'll see how the projections come out and look, but he's going to be ahead of Josh Green. I would hope that they try Knipple over him, but irrespective, you're not giving 32 minutes a night for Colin Sexton. His usage is going to be behind Bridges, Miller, and Ball anyway. So he's going to be in a smaller role that's not going to matter that much, but he is a capable player and he's a good bench piece, and their bench has been pretty rough. This is probably the most interesting trade that's happened recently, and it's involving Brooklyn and Denver. Michael Porter Jr., an unprotected 2032 first-round pick, goes to Brooklyn in exchange for Cam Johnson. Now, you could easily look at this and say, these players are very similar. I agree. They are. This contract, or this trade, is obviously a salary dump from from Denver's perspective. They give up an unprotected first, 7 years in the future. Who knows what's going to happen? It does make them, it is a win-now move, even though you can have whatever argument you want whether Michael Porter Jr. or Cam Johnson is better. I want to just dispel a few things with this, though. There is a few things that when I tweeted about this, that people had this idea, well, you're getting more health reliability with Cam Johnson. No, you're not. You're absolutely not. Over the last 6 years, Michael Porter Jr. has played more games than Cam Johnson, including a year that he played 9 games. Like, you are not getting better health with Cam Johnson. That is just not what happens. Like, Cam Johnson, especially the last couple of years, has been more injured than Michael Porter Jr. And you can say Michael Porter Jr. has had some issues in the playoffs. Yeah, Cam Johnson hasn't played in the playoffs in the last few years. So, cool. You can also say, look at their stats. They're the same year on year. True. One guy shared the court with Zaire Williams, Keon Johnson, D'Angelo Russell, and Nick Claxton, and the other was the third banana behind Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. So we'll get an idea, like, how does Cam Johnson's numbers look in that position this season versus Michael Porter Jr. playing with Brooklyn? Yeah, there'll be Cam Thomas there this season, which there wasn't last season, but I still believe that Michael Porter Jr. is a better player than Cam Johnson. I think Cam Johnson's a better defender, but the difference in salary is important, and it enabled Denver to make a move later on to get Bruce Brown. So whether you think that Bruce Brown and Cam Johnson are better than Michael Porter Jr., I think that's an interesting discussion. I think I lean on the Bruce Brown side, although that first round pick, man, it could be unbelievably juicy, because by that time, Jokic will be 37. He'll be 37. So that's intriguing, isn't it? I think that this makes Michael Porter's junior value rise pretty significantly. He's going to have a chance to get really, really good usage in Brooklyn, except they're going to be terrible, and he is going to sit games at some point. But in terms of just per game production, it will rise. Cam's will drop, almost certainly. Almost, and I know the idea will be, well, he's going to get open shots from Jokic. Probably. He probably gets some more open looks, but he just won't touch the ball as much. And I don't see how that is debatable. Let's talk about signings. Let's talk about players who changed teams. I already alluded to this one earlier. Dorian Finney-Smith. I thought the Lakers would bring him back. They did not, and he's gone. To Houston, 4 years, $53 million, player option. Now, there are a couple of things, and I did tweet this out again, and I think context is important. I think that losing Dorian Finney-Smith hurts the Lakers. That doesn't mean that I don't think that this is a bad contract. Because Dorian Finney-Smith, who was fine, but did decline last season, having a player option for age 36, is bad. It'll be a bad contract then. I've got no question about that. It still hurts the Lakers. Like, he was a vital piece. He was great with Luka. He provided defense that nobody else did. And again, before I criticize the Lakers too much, I don't know what else they're going to do with the other space or exceptions they open up. I'm not sure. But having Dorian Finney-Smith, or not having him, with what we know now, they're worse without him. Now, again, they could use the exception to make it better. Or they could be the Lakers and give Cam Reddish a 3-year, $20 million deal. I don't know. What they did do, and I do like this, is Jake LaRavia. So the Lakers get Jake LaRavia, who Memphis salary dumped last season. Good for them. He went to Sacramento. He played really well, I thought, in Sacramento, and he didn't come back to the Kings. The deal's not that much, 2 years, $12 million, but it is more than they could afford to pay because of the restrictions on LaRavia due to his 4th-year option being declined. He's not quite the same player as Dorian Finney-Smith, but I think he's good. I think he's going to be a key part of their rotation, and for deeper leagues, we use that. And the Lakers, again, they're completely up in the air because who knows what is going on with LeBron. If Jake LaRavia was a starter, he would be draftable. He's not yet, but let's watch it. Former Laker, D'Angelo Russell. This one seemed on the cards for a while. Heads to Dallas. 2 years, $13 million with a player option. So obviously, really small contract for D'Angelo Russell. He's going to start, I would expect. And then when Kyrie comes back, he'll cede that position. I imagine he exercises his player option and goes back into free agency. He will be, I would say, usable for fantasy. He will start alongside Davis, Flagg, Lively, and then Clay, I guess. Does PJ start and they go super big? I'm not sure. The team is a little bit weird, a little bit squishy, but D'Lo will have his moments. He shot horribly, and for a show that hasn't come out yet, but you'll see it come out in a couple of weeks when I'm away, talking about guys whose percentages took the biggest swings, his three-point percentage dropped by 10 percentage points last season, D'Angelo Russell. I don't think he's a 31% shooter. I think that can jump back up. Could he average 15 with 6.5 assists, 1.1 steals, 3 rebounds, 2 threes? Maybe. It's not bad. Like, if we were excited about Brandon Williams maybe being the starter, I think we should have a similar sort of feeling about D'Lo, understanding that he is bad, but there is an opportunity to put up numbers. So it's a good temporary spot for him. We also understand that when we get to the fantasy playoffs, he might be a 22-minute-a-night bench guy who starts 1 game per week. Ty Jerome goes to Memphis. 2 years, $28 million. Jerome, I thought, and this is harsh, but I thought he was exposed in the playoffs. He was incredible in terms of improving his efficiency last season in that Cavs system. Some of that stuff, Joe, though, was just not a reliable thing to happen every year moving forward. He had an increased steal rate as well. Now Memphis becomes interesting. You might look at this and go, well, this is great. He's going to move in and he'll start next to Ja. I don't think that. Well, I mean, he could. But remember, so they're going to have Jaren. They're going to have, I guess, Aldama/Edey. Then there's Jalen Wells. There is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope there. There is Scottie Pippen. I think this thought that this means Pippen is guaranteed starting, or KCP is guaranteed starting, or Jerome is guaranteed starting, or Jalen Wells is guaranteed starting is not true. I don't think any of them are guaranteed a spot, and the fact that they're all there, Jerome, KCP, Wells, and Pippen, not to mention Cole Anthony, who could be moved somewhere else, but all those guys can play these minutes. It's going to lead to a lot of sort of ups and downs. And like Jerome was good at times. His numbers were highly skewed by 9-cat rankings, so just be very cautious of that. And it required him to be incredibly efficient. And I'm not sure that carries over. The thing with him, though, is that if Morant is out, then it does boost him. But also remember, Scottie Pippen is still there. So does Pippen get more of a boost? Pippen's a better fantasy player than Jerome. So if they're playing the same minutes, you want Pippen, not Jerome. So it makes it complicated. We'll have to see how everything plays out in terms of how the projections or I'll have to see how my projections look. You can look at them as well. And then we'll see if there's any indication about how they're going to run these things. But Pippen, KCP, Wells, Jerome, Cole Anthony, there's a lot of guards in that mix, and they're all relatively capable. So that will be interesting. And then just to really make sure we're well aware that we have no idea what's going on, Kevon Looney signs a 2-year, $16 million deal with the Pelicans. So Looney, who's been with the Warriors forever, leaves. So this, I guess, means it's going to be a lot of Quinton Post, and we'll see what else Golden State does. But why? What? New Orleans trades the unprotected first to get Derek Queen. Cool. Bad fit with Zion. To get another guy who can't shoot to play next to Zion. To also have Yves Missi there, who also doesn't play well next to Zion. Troy Weaver, what are you doing? It's easy for me to make jokes about Troy Weaver because it's funny. I could throw Joe Dumars in there as well, and I'll just interchange between those two because this is clown behavior. Okay, now maybe Kevon Looney doesn't play every night. Can somebody explain to me the idea here? What is the plan? What is the rotational idea? I cannot make sense of it. Just trading up to get a center only to sign 30-year-old Kevon Looney for $8 million for 2 years. You'll never convince me that makes sense. Never in a million years. Got a couple more of these signings to get to. And then I'll do my cursory look at the end to make sure no bombs have dropped in between. To make sure that I'm not completely late on everything. Let's look at some more of these guys who changed teams. This one shocked me. I thought Luke Cornett would be back in Boston for sure. And this is just a bunch of centers I'm going to go through. But he's not. 4 years, $41 million for Luke Cornett to go to San Antonio. To be Wemby's backup. Now, when Wemby misses games, we're going to be all in on using Luke Cornett. That's really going to be solid. Their backup situation was Charles Bassey, and that was it, really. Because they didn't have Zach Collins, and there's Sandro Mamakilishvili around. Cornett and Wemby won't play a huge amount together, I don't think, so I don't think we need to worry too much about that. He's not forgotten, he just doesn't shoot threes anymore, but he's a really good shot blocker. He scores efficiently, and he rebounds well, and he'll be an interesting stream guy when Wemby is out. Boston is really tearing things down. Their center depth at the moment is Luka Garza, who they just signed for 2 years and $5.4 million, and Neemias Queta. They've also got second-round pick Amari Williams. That's their centers. I don't know where Al Horford's going to go. I don't think it's Boston. So Cornett's gone. Porzingis is gone. Honestly, if we go into the season and Luka Garza is a startup, we are drafting him. We are drafting him. Because he is a high-usage, scoring, rebounding, three-point shooting big man. We will draft him if he is the starter. And honestly, at this point, he's as good a chance as anybody, but there's a lot more to happen. I don't understand this signing for a million reasons. And it's Clint Capela to Houston. Yes, he used to play in Houston. Yes, 3 years, $21.5 million is not that much. It's $7 million a year. It's less than Luke Cornett. I get that. It's not a huge amount. They have Şengün. They re-signed Steven Adams. They extended Steven Adams. So Capela is the third string center. They will be very cautious with Adams with his knee. We know that, but also he was ramping up and playing pretty big minutes down the stretch, and the double big lineup worked, and that's all well and good. You have the double big with Şengün and Adams, and then you got Capela coming off the bench. But like I said earlier, okay, so that means no Jabari Smith minutes at the 5. Meaning Jabari's got to play all his minutes at the 4. And then if you go in double big, that limits the minutes at the 4, which means fewer minutes for Tari Eason at the 4. And fewer minutes for Dorian Finney-Smith at the 4. And fewer minutes for Kevin Durant at the 4. So while I get, like if Houston's got the money, and I believe they still have to work something out in sign and trades to get this to work, whatever, that's fine. We'll see how it plays out. Taking someone like Clint Capela and taking him and Dorian Finney-Smith away from the Lakers, who they must think are a real challenge to them, do it. You can do it, no problem. And sit him there as a complete luxury. You want to be stacked, totally cool with it. It does impact what Eason and Cam Whitmore, surely, I don't know where he's going to be. You bring back Jayshawn Tate and Jeff Green, you're stacked in depth. And it makes your team, you're going to be able to run deeper stuff, rest guys, although Udoka does not do that. If it was the Pacers, I'd say everyone's playing a lot of minutes. That's what they do. Udoka does not do that. We'll see if there's a change in philosophy. I don't really understand it from Capela's point of view. Did he just really want to be back with Tillman Fertitta? Did he have no other options to say, hey, you can be maybe a starter or at least a minute split reserve? I don't know. So I mainly don't understand why Capela is doing this. Maybe he just wants to be on a good team. The other thing that I had people say to me is like, man, this is great. Okongwu is free. Absolutely not. Has zero impact on Onyeka Okongwu. Onyeka Okongwu had already overtaken Clint Capela, and he was playing 30 minutes a night plus as the starter. He's got zero impact on Okongwu. Okongwu's value is down because Porzingis is there. Capela was never coming back to Atlanta. That was never going to be the case. Okongwu had already taken over. This move of Capela going to Houston does not impact Okongwu at all. Mason Plumlee, the cockroach, goes to Charlotte. I thought we would be getting all the cock we could get, and Ryan Kalkbrenner would start games and put up big numbers, or good numbers. But now you got the cockroach in there. He's already done it once to Mark Williams as a rookie. We'll see, does he do it to Kalkbrenner or does he do it to Diabate? Now, Plumlee is also bad. Like, he is not good at all anymore. This is a minimum contract for him. I would hope that if he does become the starter, and I fear he is going to, that he's got to play 24 minutes or so. If he's a 31-minute a night guy, yeah, we would roster him because he's a good passer, he's a good rebounder, he'll have a good field goal percentage. But I can only hope that he is there as an 18-minute a night backup and they give Diabate or Kalkbrenner an opportunity. But I don't feel good about that. I don't feel good they're going to do it, so just another annoying part of it. I would say that we are absolutely done with Brook Lopez for fantasy leagues. Because when I originally saw this, I saw 2 years, $18 million Los Angeles. When he's going to the Lakers, all right, let's go. They got the center, we're off. No, he's going to the Clippers. So Brook Lopez is Ivica Zubac's backup. Now, Lopez is 37 years old. He still can shoot. He's more inconsistent now. He still is a good rim protector. He is still massive. I don't think this means that Zubac is now a 27-minute or 26-minute a night player. Zubac was awesome. He was an all-defense player. He was one of the most improved players in the entire NBA. But what I do think it means is that we don't get 35 minutes a night of Zubac. So while it doesn't kill Zubac, it does limit some of the ceiling. Part of the appeal, though, last season of Ivica Zubac was the fact that you drafted him at 100 and he finished up way better than that. This season, if you were going to draft him, you were going to have to draft him at that value, and there was no value in it. So now, the thing with Zubac is you got to really look at this and go that when you're looking at his numbers, the only way they go is down. So be very cautious of him. He could end up being a bust because people expect similar to before, when last season, part of the reason that he was in our hearts so much is that he gave us 7 rounds of value, and he's got zero chance of doing that now. In fact, he's likely to go back the other way a little bit. It doesn't kill him. He's still going to be incredibly useful and their starter and playing 30 minutes, I would guess. But not huge amounts because Lopez still is good. He's just not going to be a starter, would be the way that I think that goes. Let's talk about some more wing players now. Jokaris LeVert goes to Detroit. 2 years, $29 million. Jaden Ivey will be back. Tim Hardaway Jr., I don't know. Malik Beasley, I don't know. But you got Cade Cunningham there. LeVert has improved his defense and his ball handling, but he's still a shaky shooter. It doesn't look like Dennis Schroeder will be back. It looks like, and this has not been confirmed, that Schroeder will be going to Sacramento. It's like 90% done, it seems. So it is a weird signing. Detroit not making great moves. I don't mind him as a depth piece. We will not be using him in fantasy at this point. There's still Asar Thompson, there's Tobias Harris, there's rugged Ronnie Holland. They drafted Chaz Lanier to give some shooting. And LeVert is just not a shooter. It's not a bad deal, but I don't love it. Minimum signing, Bruce Brown goes to Denver. We won't be using him in fantasy, but again, that is great depth behind Christian Brown. Does he impact Christian Brown at all? What do they do with backup point guard? Jalen Pickett going to be that? Is Westbrook going to return? Still a lot to happen in Denver. But Brown will be someone that we would consider. And then the last move I want to talk, or two more situations to talk about. Atlanta, they loaded up as well. That is a lot of money for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. 4 years, $62 million with a player option. Now, he was incredibly valuable from a team chemistry perspective in Minnesota, and able to do a lot of things. Handle the ball at times, shoot, defend at a high level. He's more of a shooting guard than a point guard. He's very similar to Dyson Daniels, to be honest. So he's going to come in now and play minutes as the backup 1/2 behind Trae Young, behind Dyson. It's going to limit anything that Kobe Buffkin could do. I also think it limits Zachary Ricochet. Not only can they go Porzingis, Okongwu, Jalen Johnson, but now they can place 3 guards with Daniels, Alexander Walker, and Young. And I don't know where Ricochet fits. I think, again, he's probably worth a flyer, but adding guys in like Porzingis and Alexander Walker makes it way worse for Zach Ricochet. Way worse. And I know LeVert is gone. I know that. And Terrence Mann is gone, not that he played a huge amount, and Yang is gone, and all that is true. But Jalen Johnson wasn't there second half of the year. Alexander Walker could easily slide into the DeAndre Hunter / Karis LeVert minutes. We won't be drafting him in fantasy, I'm very certain of that. I don't think it has a huge impact on Dyson Daniels, although Daniels is primed to be overdrafted. I don't think it impacts Jalen Johnson or Porzingis or Okongwu. It just makes this Hawks team pretty locked in as a top 4 seed at this point. They also bring in the Duck, Luke Kennard. Now, they've been running their own Luke Kennard out there, Garrison Matthews, but they actually get the real one now, a 45% three-point shooter. He can't do much else. He can handle the ball. He can play some point. Again, Kobe Buffkin, I think they might be out on him. I think he might be done. I'd like to see another team take a chance on Kobe Buffkin. Kennard, we use as three-point streaming when situations get dire, and that's about it. And then speaking of point guards, Tyus Jones was on a minimum for Phoenix last season. He struggled. Now he goes to Orlando on a $7 million deal, and that is a huge upgrade on having Corey Joseph. Yes, they drafted Jace Richardson, who I like, but he's not going to impact stuff. We will not be drafting Tyus Jones either. Jalen Suggs and Desmond Bane are going to be in the backcourt. Jones will play 24 minutes a night. He'll fill in at times, and this is his role. He is a backup point guard. He will not be a 12-team league guy, despite what 9Cat rankings might suggest that he is. I don't think he will be anyway. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Again, we got the word on Jordan Clarkson that he was intending to sign with the Knicks, but I'll cover that off all in tomorrow's show. Let's do a quick cursory check to see if anything else has gone down. And I see nothing else that's gone on. So we're good. Unless, well, that's not true. Trendon Watford gone to Philadelphia to be a backup 4. Good for him. I'll be back tomorrow with more free agency news. Subscribe. You won't miss them. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.